Every single VA claim that I've filed using this method has gotten approved. And I'm going to show you exactly the 4 steps I use to make every VA claim I submitted absolutely bulletproof. Most people file a claim with a diagnosis and a hope that it gets approved. I filed all of my claims with a paper trail of real evidence so strong and so thick that the rater had no choice but to absolutely go through it, see that my claims were valid, and then approve me. You don't want to leave the VA with any room to interpret anything other than the evidence that you've provided them. And if you're sitting on a claim right now for something that you never went to medical for, that's okay. I've got you covered there too. Quick disclaimer, I'm not a VSO. I'm not an accredited claims agent. I don't work for the VA. I'm a medically retired Marine Corps officer that went through the medical retirement process, had to learn the VA process on his own, and created these steps to make every single claim I submitted the strongest possible and didn't leave any room to interpret that I didn't suffer these injuries while I was in service. I'm Noah. This is the Military Money Brief, and let's get into it. Step 1 is evidence collection. This happens before you even write a single word to the VA. This is where you want to gather all of your medical records. You want to get up-to-date imagery, whether that's x-rays, MRIs, CT scans. You want to get all of your medical history for that specific condition prepared and ready to deliver to the VA. So this include medical records, imagery, and service records. You can pull your service records through MilConnect or a records request online. If you were treated somewhere like a private practice where the VA doesn't have access to those medical records, that's completely fine. You're gonna wanna pull those medical records. This is what I did for a number of claims for injuries that I was still treating once I left the military. I pulled all of those imagery and medical records from that private civilian hospital and then presented them to the VA. The goal here is simple. Before you write your story, you need that paper trail of evidence to lay as your foundation before going into anything else. Step 2 is where service members usually skip or rush this part, and this is equally just as important, if not more important, than the medical records themselves. And this is the personal statement. This is filed on VA Form 21-4138. The link to that will be in the description below, and you're gonna want to write a personal statement for every single claim. Not one blanket statement for everything, one per condition. I structured my personal statements for every single claim the exact same way, and I'm gonna show you right here. So first, you're gonna start with who you are. You're gonna write branch, rank, MOS, years of service. You're gonna want to ground the VA rater exactly who you are before talking and getting into the injury. The next section of the personal statement is when you first experienced or injured the body part and how it happened. Be specific. Give a date range if you don't have the exact date. Give your unit, the actual mechanism of injury, what you were doing, and what happened. The third thing on the personal statement is how it affects you today. Not how it affected you in 2015, today. Range of motion, pain frequency, what you can't do anymore that you used to be able to do. How it affects your sleep, your work, your family life. Whatever is actually true for you, you want to lay it out right here. The fourth and final part of the personal statement should be what you're doing to get help today. Current treatment, PT, medication, appointments on the books. This shows the condition is active and ongoing, not something you're claiming after the fact with nothing behind it. Every claim I submitted followed that exact 4-part structure, and I think the consistency is the part where they were hard to push back on. The rater isn't hunting for the story, it's laid out for them. I always wanted to make it as easy and simple as possible for whoever is reading my story to understand the entire history of it. You don't want to leave anything up to interpretation. So step 3 is the witness statement. You're going to want at least one witness statement per claim if possible. This can be from a buddy who you were deployed with, who you served with, that maybe saw the injury, was there, or if they didn't see it, how it affected you day to day at work. It can be a spouse, it can be a family member, it can be somebody from the civilian world today that notices your condition, how it affects you today. Quick pause here. If this content is useful for you, I would really appreciate if you could hit that subscribe button. If this is something that you're interested in or you have questions about or maybe a different topic, please go ahead and leave a comment below. All this just helps me put more content out and reaches a broader audience the more engagement a post like this gets. So I would really appreciate it. And in the comments, tell me what conditions you're working on, what your experience has been like with the VA, where you've had success and maybe have had not so much success. All right, back to it. Step 4. Step 4 is optional. However, this is one that carries a lot of weight in strengthening your claim, and that's a Nexus letter. The Nexus letter is the link. It is a medical letter written usually by a medical doctor, doctor of physical therapy, or anyone that has that specific license that connects your injury with your military service. And this is where they state that it is at least as likely as not, meaning 50% probability or greater, that your current disability was caused or aggravated by your military service. If you have a doctor or physical therapist you have a real relationship with, somebody who's actually treated you and understands the history, ask them directly if they'd be willing to share their opinion. Not every provider will, and that's fine. But if they will, the Nexus letter paired with your personal statement, paired with your buddy statement, will absolutely strengthen your claim. Again, to not leave any room for interpretation for the VA to believe that this wasn't suffered because of your military service or aggravated because of it. Now, here's the part I want to spend a little bit more time on because this applies to so many friends that were in the Marine Corps with me. It applied to myself. And that is when you suffered an injury and you didn't want to go to medical to get it treated. I had suffered an injury during one of my schoolhouses that lingered for years and years and caused other injuries. And I never went to medical because I was afraid of getting rolled out of my class and, delaying time of me hitting the fleet. Whatever the reason, there's no record medically from your time in service. If that's you, step one is to go get seen. Go to the VA, go to your private medical doctor, start getting imagery and getting treatment for this injury. You need a current diagnosis on paper before you can go ahead and move forward with the claim. You cannot skip this step. No current medical evidence in history means no claim, period. From there, you'll still follow steps 2, 3, and definitely 4 if this is the case on that Nexus letter. But in your personal statement, it's going to change a little bit. You're going to want to explain why you didn't go to medical while in service. Again, lay it out as simply as possible for the VA rater so that they understand exactly where your head was at when you didn't want to get seen by medical for this injury and, again, how it's affecting you today. You can explain in the personal statement, I didn't go to medical because I was on deployment and I didn't want to get pulled from deployment because of this injury. Whatever's true for you, lay it out on the personal statement. From there, a witness statement matters even more in this position. Again, if a battle buddy was there, saw you get injured, or your unit saw how you were after the injury, weeks, months, years later, you're gonna want those witness statements. Again, just strengthens your evidence and corroborates your story. Like I mentioned a minute ago, a Nexus letter in this case is almost non-optional. Again, if your doctor doesn't want to write you one or they can't, that's something out of your control. However, if they do write you one, this absolutely strengthens the case because they're making that link from this injury was more likely than not due to your military service. So to recap, gather all of your evidence, service records, medical records, imagery, write your personal statement on 21, 41, 38 for every claim using that 4-part structure. Get at least one witness statement on 2110, 21-0. And if you can, get a Nexus letter connecting your injury, how you're dealing with it today, to your military service. And if you never went to medical while you were in, that's okay. You still have options. You have the structure laid out in front of you, the steps laid out in front of you to absolutely build a strong case and explain to the VA that this injury was due to your military service. Again, I'm not a VSO. This is not legal advice. I am somebody who has lived this, done many VA claims. I was medically retired. I've helped other Marines from my unit, friends, just with the opinions of these steps that have helped me. And if you want an accredited rep in your corner, that's exactly what VSOs are for. And you can go out online and find one to help you today. Again, if you could subscribe to the channel, I'm pushing out content every single week. This helps reach the broad spectrum of not only veterans, active duty service members, and their families. All of my topics apply to that range of personas. If you could like the video, I would appreciate that. And please drop a comment what your experience with the VA has been like, what you're working on today, what you found success with, and what has not been so successful. Again, thank you for watching. This is the Military Money Brief, and we'll see you next time.